Shalom, I'm Regina. In this session, I will explain about nursing care for patients with fracture. Let's start. We will discuss about this topic from review musculoskeletal system, definition and etiology, from fracture, classification, clinical manifestation, diagnosis, management, pathophysiology, and of course, nursing care for patients with fracture. Let's review about musculoskeletal system. I hope you can call your memories about the musculoskeletal system. Where is the femur? Where is the long bone? Where is ulna? Where is radius? So we can talk about fracture. And then don't forget to recall your memories about a bone cells. There is 4 bone cells. There are osteogenic cell, osteoblast, osteocyte, and osteoclast. And then the function for them. Definition of fracture. Fracture is a disruption of the normal continuity of a bone, disrupting the surrounding soft tissue. This is from Black. And then from the other, the Taylor say that a bone fracture is a condition in which the continuity of the bone is broken, which can be caused by trauma or pathological conditions due to underlying disease. For the etiology, a fracture occurs when the force applied to a bone exceeds the strength of the bone itself. So the factor can be divided for two, extrinsic factor and intrinsic factor. For the extrinsic factor, the rate of mechanical loading, the level, direction and magnitude of the force experienced by bone. For the intrinsic factor, mechanical properties of bone, absorption capacity, Young modulus, or a measure of bone stiffness and ability to resist deformation, and the bone strength. The bone strength means bone mineral density. And then fractures occur due to direct or indirect trauma. For direct trauma, we can it means direct force applied to the bone, and indirect means result of tension and rotational force distance from the fracture site. For the risk factor of fracture, we can say first, sudden impact such as trauma, accident, and assault, and then cause osteoporosis because women more than men. So men can more risk for fracture than men. And then the other, history of falls, especially because age. And then repetitive stress, repetitive microtrauma, pathology, abnormally fragile bones due to neoplastic, poor health, or disease. This slide will explain about classification of fracture. First, based on the cause. 1. Traumatic, 2. Stress, sufficiency, and pathological. And then we can classify the fracture without significant trauma, divided to the first abnormal bone or pathological fracture and normal bone. The normal bone can divide into sufficient bone or stress fracture and insufficient bone or osteoporosis. This slide will explain about classification from orthopedic trauma association is an alphanumeric pattern recognition system widely used to describe long bone fracture. So this is the classification only on long bone fracture. You can read this, and then this is the process of classification and coding a diaphysis fracture, the process and the classification and coding and segment fracture, alphanumeric structure of orthopedic trauma association classification. Then this slide we can read about the classification of fracture based on pattern. There are 6 fracture based on pattern. 1. Transverse. Where is the transfer? This is the transfer pattern. You can see the transfer pattern is horizontal, and then the spiral. This is the spiral, and this. And then oblique. Where is oblique? This is the oblique, and this. And then simple. The simple is divided 3. They are transverse, oblique, and spiral. So we can look this. Transverse, oblique, and spiral is a simple fracture pattern. And then segmental. This is segmental. Segmental has two horizontal segment. And then the last, multifragmentary. And then this slide will explain about classification of fracture from displacement. First, displacement and undisplacement. You can see that this is non-displacement or normal alignment fracture, but the second picture shows that displacement or pull out of normal alignment. The classification of fracture based on the section of the bone involved. First, intra-articular, and then metaphysis and diaphysis. Intra-articular means the fracture is involve the joint. And then metaphysis, where is metaphysis? This is metaphysis, and then this is diaphysis. We can also classify the fracture whether the skin remains intact, one open fracture, and then closed fracture. The picture from open fractures is the first picture. You can look this picture, the skin not intact, but closed fracture, the skin intact. The next classification from orthopedic trauma association based on the fracture location. Which parts of the bone? 1. Proximal end segment. 2. Diaphysis segment, and the last distal end segment. Look the number in this picture. This is the classification of fracture from Orthopedic Trauma Association based on fracture morphology, especially diaphysis segment. There are 3 types. First, type A, type B, and type C. The type A, the type A is simple fracture, are spiral, oblique, and transverse. And type B is wedge fracture, spiral, bending, fragmented, and the last multifragmentary fracture, spiral wedge, segmented, and irregular. This is the classification of fracture for end segment. There are 3 types: type A, type B, and type C. Type A is extra-articular, type B is partial articular, and the last type C is complete articular. This slide will explain about clinical manifestation from fracture. First, there is a pain at or close to the impacted area, redness, loss of mobility, sensitivity at or close to the impacted area, the sound of the bones grating against each other after the impact, the sound of breaks of crack, and then the last swelling. For diagnosis of fracture, we can get from the clinical history of the patient, the symptoms, and then the image examination. Clinical examination of fracture. Characteristic of physical sign of fracture include deformity and displacement of the fracture end, which can change the shape of the effective limb, mainly manifesting and sorting angulation and extension. The second, abnormal activity. The part of the body cannot move under normal circumstances. The fracture induces the abnormal activity. And the last, the bony crepitus, or 2 fracture ends rub against each other after a fracture. So the bone result in bony crepitus or bony grinding sensation. So fracture can be diagnosed if one of the above 3 signs is found. However, the possibility of fracture cannot be ruled out given none of these signs is present, such as in the case of impacted fracture and fissure fracture. Severe trauma can be accompanied by systemic manifestation such as shock and fever. The other clinical manifestation of fracture, most of fatigue fracture have a history of high intensity of exercise in the recent times. The pain appears to be increased during the day, but relief after a night's rest and has a specific location during a specific activity. Then, for pathological fracture, the bond with the fracture is abnormal. For instance, the external force leading to the fracture is very light, yet the pain in the site exists before the fracture. Therefore, the possibility of a pathological fracture should be suspected. This slide will explain about imaging evaluations from fracture. First, X-ray evaluation. X-ray evaluation should be routinely performed in all suspected fractures, such as incomplete fractures and fractures in deep region. Not only helps detect the fractures, but X-ray evaluation also has significant meaning in guiding clinical therapy. The second imaging evaluation is CT scanning. The diagnosis of a fracture is usually considered simple and direct viewing. However, in some situations, misdiagnosis and misdiagnosis of fracture can occur due to the complication and overlap of anatomical structure, inconspicuous displaced fracture, and small fracture fragments. Therefore, to reduce or avoid misdiagnosis, CT scanning should be performed routinely, especially for the spine and pelvis fracture or fracture in other complex anatomical sites and complex fracture types. And the others, CT scanning can be more visualized and convenient for the fracture classification, which is beneficial to guide the selection of treatment. The last of imaging evaluation is MRI scanning. Though MRI is not as good as the CT evaluation in regards to showing the fracture lines, but it has advantage in spine trauma by illustrating combined injuries in spinal cord, intervertebral ligaments, and other soft tissue. MRI scanning should also be the first choice for joint ligament and articular cartilage injury. This slide will explain about the pathophysiology of fracture. We remember again about the etiology of fractures, that the pressure exerted on bones more than bone strength, and then the pressure can form physical accidents, sports injuries, force or pathological of the patient. And then they can make a pressure exerted on bones more than bone strength. So the fracture of bone structures or break in bone continuity. Bone fracture are accompanied by damage to the surrounding soft tissue. So we can look for the manifestation from fracture, cause pain, edema, bleeding, tendon damage, and nerve damage. There are 3 complications of fracture. First, immediate. second early, and the last late. For immediate are hemorrhage, soft tissue damage, and nerve injury. Early are embolism, compartment syndrome, and infection. For embolism, we remember that a bone consists of fat. So if the fat come to the circulation in our body, they can make embolism. And the last is late complication is malunion, delayed union, and non-union, avascular necrosis, osteoarthritis, chronic pain. Chronic pain is more than 3 months, and complex regional pain syndrome. A vascular necrosis is a necrosis from a bone because not vascularization. Compartment syndrome is one of complications in a fracture. Compartment syndrome is a painful condition that occurs when pressure within the muscles builds to dangerous levels. These pressures can decrease blood flow, which prevents nourishment and oxygen from reaching nerves and muscle cells. So you can look the normal muscles, and then this is the muscles with compartment syndrome. The compartment syndrome causing compression of nerves and vessels. There are two types of compartment syndrome. The first is acute and the other is chronic. The classic sign of acute compartment syndrome is severe pain, especially when the muscle within the compartment is stretched. The pain is more intense than what would be expected from the injury itself. But for the chronic, can cause pain or cramping during exercise. This pain goes away when activity stops. It most often occurs in the leg. In acute compartment syndrome may also be burning sensation or paresthesia in the skin. The muscle may feel tight or full, and paralysis are late signs of this compartment syndrome. Without treatment, it can lead to permanent muscle damage. For management fracture, there are some principles of fracture management or osteosynthesis. First, conservative treatment, then cast or splint, traction, surgical therapy, open reduction and internal fixation, K-wires, plates and screw, intramedullary nails, and external fixation. For the guidelines, you can read this because based on where is the fractures or the location of fractures is different guidelines. First, conservative treatment. Independent of the method applied for definitive fracture treatment, fractures which are displaced need to be reduced prior to fixation. In conservative treatment, this reduction needs to be performed in a closed fashion. After initial reduction, the position has to be retained. This can be achieved either by case or splint or traction. These fundamental principles, which are not limited to conservative treatment, such as reduction, retention, and exercise. The second is case or splint. Conservative treatment with case or splint is still a very effective treatment, especially in minimal or non-displaced fracture at the meta or diaphysis level. The case can be made from thermoplastic materials such as fiberglass or plaster. They are having a advantage of being more malleable and therefore being used in case where a close reduction is sought to be maintained. Fiberglass is also splash water resistant, is lighter and higher wear comfort for the patient. Traction. There are two main principles of applying traction, one of which is applying traction to the soft tissues or skin tractions, and the other being traction applied to the bone or skeletal tractions. In severely injured patients, however, it can be applied in order to bridge the time until definite operative treatment can be applied. Surgical therapy. Based on Orthopedic Trauma Association, there are 4 principles for surgical therapy for fracture. First, anatomy reduction of the fracture fragments. Second, stable fixation. Third, preservation of blood supply. And the last, early range of motion and rehabilitation. Open reduction and internal fixation. After a realignment of the fracture ends, the fracture must be stabilized in order to maintain the reduction. So we need other device for internal fixation. You can look this picture. We use the device for internal fixation. The next management is K-wires. K-wires are commonly used for temporary or definitive treatments of fracture. They allow maintaining reduction, resisting alignment change in the frontal, sagittal, and transversal plane. K-wires have smaller diameters, so they are often employed around smaller joints or such as meta and epiphysis region, and in particular to minimize potential growth disturbance in children and adolescents where growth plates are still open. Next, plates and screw. According to the Orthopedic Association, there are 5 main plates function: anti-glide plates, compression plates, neutralization plates, tension band plates, and bridge plates. Plates and screws are frequently applied in cases where absolute stability is required. In this case, the case is but not limited to the management of articular fracture. After anatomic reduction of the fracture, fragments as well as fracture ends are kept in place with screw and plates. So, their superior stability compared to K-wires. Additional casting is not necessary in plate and screw. Intramodulary nails. Intramodulary device operate as internal spline, allow a directed dynamic compression under wedge bearing conditions. Initially, loads are shared with the bone, allowing the fractures to heal. The following different nails are flexible or rigid, lock and unlock, rim or unrim. External fixation. External fixation provides phase initial fracture stabilization depending on the respective use. The screw and tubes both main biomechanical principle of fracture care, being force deflection or force transmission, and the fracture site can be realized using an external fixation. This technique provides stability for the extremity, maintaining bone line, alignment, and rotation without requiring casting. Therefore, it allows for continuous inspection as well as subsequent wound care or soft tissue structures. This slide will explain about the nursing process of fracture. If we talk about nursing process, we can remember that a nursing process consists of assessment, diagnosis, planning, implementation, and evaluation. Assessment. We remember that basic life support and life saving is be prioritized over fracture management. An initial assessment of pain and inspection for bleeding. Where possible, gain a brief history of event from the patient. The impact can influence the fracture pattern and may help identify the presence of the other injuries. And then we can inspection the site, comparing both limbs, inspect for deformity, open wounds, swelling, bruising, pallor. Immediate swelling may be suggestive of bleeding at the site. We can also palpate the site to detect maximum point of tenderness and differentiate between soft tissue or bony tenderness. And then we can assessment of the neurovascular status, including pulses, capillary level time, motor function, and sensation. Suspected fractures should be x-rayed in hospital using at least 2 different planes to identify any discontinuity of the bone. Nurses play a key role from nursing care plan for the patient with fracture. The roles are management of injury, fracture healing, pain management, and rehabilitation. Management of injury. The aim of fracture management is to achieve healing without deformity and to restore the function of bone. Fractures may need repositioning to restore the normal alignment. Where there is significant displacement, disease may require manipulation under sedation or anesthetic to achieve good position. For management injury, the nurse able to review the patient in their usual thing. They can management of the soft tissue injury, and then observe the other complication of immobilization device. Fracture healing. Fracture healing can divide it two phases. First, primary bone healing, and the second, secondary bone healing. Primary bone healings occur when there is a small fracture gap and absolutely no movement at the fracture site. But for the secondary bone healings is the type of bone healings that occurs in the absence of rigid fixation. Bone production and apposition to fill the fracture gap occur by osteoblasts. In the same way, the Howship lacunae are filled after the action of cutting cones. This form of bone healing is less frequent. The majority of fractures heals through secondary bone healing. In the secondary bone healings, there are four phases. First, inflammation. The second, soft callus formation. The third, hard callus formation, and the last, remodeling. This slide will explain about the secondary bone healing. In inflammation, a hematome forms at the fracture sites, and the inflammatory response to the injury stimulates the migration of macrophage and mesenchymal cells to the site of injury. The acute inflammatory response peaks within 24 hours and lasts up to 5 days. This is the hematome. So, the hematome starts from 0 to 5 days. The second phase is soft callus formation. Phagocytosis of necrotic tissue occurs to the gap between the fracture sites is closed through the formation of fibrocartilage callus. This is soft callus and fibrous tissues. The third phase is hard callus formation. Mineralization of the fibrocartilage structure to create calcified tissue. Osteoblasts are stimulated by weight-bearing exercise. Therefore, fracture healing is achieved through weight-bearing activity. This is the hard callus or secondary bone. And the last, remodeling. After the fracture site has healed, the bone is gradually remodeled and excess callus is reabsorbed. Remodeling can begin as early as 3 until 4 weeks, but can last for several years. This is remodel. This slide will explain about factors that may disrupt fracture healing, such as smoking and alcohol, metabolic or endocrine disorders, medications such as corticosteroid and prolonged non-steroid anti-inflammation drugs, fluoroquinolones, rifampicin and topical gentamicin, vitamin D deficiency, infection, inadequate fixation of fracture, and also vascular insufficiency. Management. Nurses play an important role in assessing pain and advising on pain management across acute and rehabilitation phase of care. Post-assessment of pain can result in adequate relief. which can subsequently impact on recovery progress and quality of life. Nurses also can review the effectiveness of medication and the side effect from medication. So there should be monitor where possible, giving advice on how to manage this proactively. For severe pain, such as with open fracture or major trauma, we initially manage with intravenous morphine, while less severe pain associated with other factors may be managed with paracetamol and supplemented with codeine where necessary. Rehabilitation. Fractures can have significant impact on sleep, social and family lives, sense of independence, and psychological well-being. Rehabilitation aims to restore the range of movement and function, and reduce the risk of complication. Nurses can identify actual or potential problems that may occur during the rehabilitation period and discuss with the patient how these challenges may be overcome. The input from the nurse may range from encouragement, development adaptive strategies, or referring to the other service for additional support, such as with meals or personal hygiene. Patients can be feelings of depression, low mood, and increased emotional liability are not uncommon feelings in injury. So patients who have required an intensive care admission commonly have high level of depression and anxiety post-injury. This is some of the nursing problems that we can find from the patient with fracture. From ineffective peripheral perfusion, and then risk of delay post-operative recovery. The last conclusion, fractures can have a significant impact on health and well-being for the patient. Fracture management requires a multidisciplinary approach to recovery. Fracture can result in disruption until 12 months after injury. Fracture can have immediate, short, and long-term complications. So a patient-centered care multidisciplinary approach to rehabilitation is required for optimal outcomes. Fragile fractures should be followed up and with assessment of bone. Nurses can facilitate a patient-centered approach to recovery, goal setting, education, and monitoring of progress. Nursing have an important role in providing nursing care to patients with fracture, assessment, wound or injury management, bone healing, pain management, and rehabilitation. This is some of my reference. And the last, thank you. God bless.